Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting of Overview and Scrutiny. Like children. Look at them chatting. Anyway, we'll carry on. We'll start with apologies for absence. Emma.
So we have apologies from Councillor Linda Pearson, but Councillor Scroggy is subbing for her, and we have apologies from Councillor Simon Murray.
And just to add, Councillor Scroggy is going to be a few minutes late. He's going to be here in a few minutes. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is to approve as correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of September. I actually wasn't here that night, so I had COVID, so Councillor Feeney ably stepped in. I did watch you. And so is everybody okay with the minutes from the 5th of September? Yeah, proposer, Sam, second, Paul. Thanks very much. All in favour? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we'll go to any declarations of interest this evening. Councillor Ellis.
Yes, with regard to the presentation by Gedling Play Forum, I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in that I am Chair of Trustees. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Anyone else? No. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the programme of portfolio holder attendance. So I'm just fiddling to get my iPad up and running here. And so first of all, it looks like we've got, are you going first, Viv? Yeah. Yep. We're going with Councillor Viv McCrossan first. So take it away, Viv.
Okay, take it away. So this is going to be a joint presentation with myself and my learned officer here, Lance Dewby. Just to say, you have got a really busy evening this evening. There are 25 slides here. I'm not suggesting, because otherwise you will be here till midnight. So what I'm going to suggest is that we whistle through my slides. I'd like to point out that you have not given me any questions in advance for my portfolio. So I am going to whistle through sort of headlines in terms of what we've been doing. And then clearly, if there is anything at the end that I can take away, and if I can't deal with it, then obviously I'll deal with it and get the information. Okay, but there was no questions in advance for today. Okay, so, oh, yeah, okay. So the areas of responsibility, you can see on here, and obviously you can see that on the website. So we'll be whistling through these areas. We'll get that working. Just for information, the oversight over play sits with the portfolio holder for local pride and community engagement. So in essence, it's agreed this portfolio really focuses on the events for young people. And obviously our role in Gedling coordinating an annual programme of activities within our own facilities in terms of leisure and in the community. But as you appreciate, there is a budget for youth that sits within the County Council. So much of what we do is actually work in partnership and alongside our county council to add value to what's going on in the community, and also to work with our communities in terms of our voluntary sector as well, to offer. And that particularly is quite key when it comes to holidays, because in the holiday times, there's less events happening within some of the more structured youth. So again, we try and add value with voluntary sector, local communities, and using our own facilities in terms of developing activities for young people. We, like I say, we fund that. And some examples, we had a really great girls and young women female skate jam recently that was really well attended in our park here. So again, you know, we're looking to ensure that we're covering needs. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about some of the consultation we've done with young people. It doesn't seem to work for me, this. Oh, I've gone too far now. Hold on. So just again, some of the events that you can see that we do. Really proud of our young people film club that we have at Bonington. 16 for 24, you know, that's a great event. But again, it's really important that we coordinate, work together, and we can offer a good core offer for our young people. And we've got some really positive feedback when we've done the consultation about that. And obviously I work closely with the Youth Council in terms of that, around what we're doing for young people. Hit me. Half programme. You want to start saying something about that?
Yeah. I think just on the holiday activity and food programme. So Councillor McCrossan just asked me to say a few words about this, and this programme really has come about out of the pandemic. It was a response from government to think about out-of-school activities for families most in need, particularly for children aged 5 to 16, and to really consider to target those children who are eligible for benefits such as free school meals. So what's happened in Nottinghamshire from 2021 is there's an allocation to the County Council for that programme. And during 2021 till Easter 2022, a proportion of that was passported down to us as a borough council to help support the County Council in terms of ensuring that those funds meet the need in our local communities. So a bit of an update now really around what we did do in that period. Since summer of this year, the County Council is now facilitating that work itself, sort of learning from the work it's done with all the districts during that sort of interim period. So from summer last year to Easter this year, the work that we're involved in was really to source local activity providers, and we did a lot of work to work with our local contacts, particularly those that had an awareness of children who accessed free school meals, because that was the target audience. So there was a bit of a ready-made audience in terms of some of those providers. We also brought together local food providers as well, because part of the programme was not only activities but offering free meals, doing those activities for those children in need. So the other part of the approach we did was around blended activities. So what that means is we used the opportunity in terms of putting on those events and activities by offering paid places for those children that could afford it. So actually added the capacity in terms of the programme that we were doing. So those on free school meals got the free spaces, but also as an opportunity for others as well. And this, on the slide here, is just an example of some of the local partners who effectively, they drew upon some of the funding to do those activities and provide food across the borough. And just a map here, this just shows, you know, the breadth across the borough in terms of our work we did, not only in some of the urban areas, but also across, you know, some of our villages as well, working with providers. So there's been really good coverage around this programme. And now the County Council have taken over the full facilitation. A lot of these providers are continuing to benefit from those activities during the holiday periods. So do you want me to continue on?
Yeah, have you done that? We're talking about the warm space.
Yeah, well, there's part of Councillor McCrossan's portfolio is around addressing child poverty as well. So some of the work we've also done with county colleagues is look at targeting funding around food, in particular food clubs in the right places. So there's food clubs now in Netherfield and Eusted. So that means there's a membership fee, a small membership fee of about £1 across the whole year. But that means that families in those areas can now access affordable weekly food packages for about £3.50, just to support them with the current cost of living issues that exist. The other thing we've been working with partners on is warm spaces as well across the borough. So on our website you can access these. There's 27 designated warm spaces across Gedling. We've got Richard Herod and Bonington Theatre, but our communities are also offering a whole range of other facilities as well. And here's a map of all those spaces that have kind of come forward that we've been promoting as a warm space. And really it's a place where people can access for free during the winter period. Some will offer hot refreshments as well, but it provides a warm environment for families and communities to socialise and gather.
Yeah, and also really helpful around young people to do their homework as well.
So the food fund is another pot of funding working with county council colleagues that we've been able to access. And what we've done locally in order to try and look at addressing social isolation in the community, we've offered small grants to different community projects to enable social eating opportunities. And some of the examples there around local food banks. There's a mental health and wellbeing cafe that's been set up in Gedling at the Phoenix Methodist Church. We also provided some food at a recent event with the Syrian Society. So it's just enabling social eating opportunities in connection through that with the community.
Okay, so moving on then to the Youth Council, which I think you're all aware of. So I sit on the Youth Council, and we had the inaugural meeting in May. We've got a new executive now. They're a very vibrant group of diverse young people that come together. We've done a young people consultation in 2021 that focused on some key areas around how we communicate with young people, and some of the key themes were clearly around mental health, as you know, and bullying. So it's work that we are moving forward with in terms of that. And I work closely with portfolio holder Councillor Wheeler around his role in terms of mental health and young people. The Youth Council was presented with the Lord Lieutenant's Young Volunteering Award in June 2022. And more recently, our Youth Council were talking in the Houses of Parliament just recently, which was fabulous. Mohammed gave a great speech, and you can get that online if you want to see that. But it really, it just shows the sort of how well our Youth Council is thought of across the council, actually, across the whole of the county council. And we're proposing some link-ups with some our Ukrainian young people. We had an event recently, and we've got some young people that really expressed an interest to come along and talk to our Youth Council about what it's felt like for them being part of Gedling. So our Youth Council undertook a work experience, which was really useful. They do a lot around youth engagement. They've established connections with the leisure Instagram. What we're looking at the moment is to try to look for a platform, an Instagram platform, and we're working with the County Council in terms of their platform to see how we can, again, to get out not just news and events, but actually as an education tool as well in terms of an Instagram. They're very busy, and we are really listening and being part of what their aspirations are within the borough. What was good was that actually when we did the consultation, young people felt happy living in the borough and they felt safe living in the borough, which was really, in terms of open spaces, they felt we had a good level of open spaces. They felt that there was things to do and places to go, which was great. But mental health remains a high focus for them in terms of access to services and support when they need it is still something that is an area that we're all really concerned about. We have a new youth mayor, Fatima, and she's been really busy in terms of supporting the mayor. And there's some of the events that she's been involved with. Again, I think we were one of the first boroughs in the county to have a youth mayor, and it's been really well received. And it's something that the feedback has been really positive in terms of how they've felt really included in events within our borough. The actions that are going to be developed, we're going to be reviewing diversity of events and networks attended by the mayor and the youth mayor. Youth mayor is being involved in the annual Christmas card competition. Democratic Services are attending a youth council to discuss the elections, which is great. That must be the next meeting. And then the Youth Council's connections and relationship with local Muslim communities, mayor to attend future Muslim community events. So really, it's widening out their role, giving food for thought to the mayor as well. And I know that's really welcomed. I know when I was mayor, really welcome to sort of diversify in terms of to ensure that we are really fully involved in all sorts of events within our community. So some of the really good programmes and events that we've put on. A great one in terms of during the exam times, where we offered 15 to 18-year-olds a free gym pass to try and de-stress during at the time when they were revising for their exams. As I say, the Cinema Club, come along sessions. As I say, we focus on holidays to ensure that, again, that we've got things going on across the borough. And bearing in mind, in terms of for my portfolio, I have a very tiny allocation of money. So it's not a portfolio that comes with much cash. It's really around how we can influence and how we can advocate and ensure that actually our young people in the borough are getting their fair share of services across the county. So it's really working closely with, as I say, the County Council and other organisations. Hold on. And so there's just a few slides we've got here in terms of the other area that sits under the portfolio around youth unemployment and apprenticeships. So again, all these slides will be sent out to you clearly, but again, it just gives you a understanding of the things we're doing to support young people in terms of job fairs, apprenticeships, and support that we're doing within the borough. Oh, hold on. And there's some stats there. So you can see in terms of youth unemployment for the 16 to 25-year-olds, we're talking about 365 individuals, which is 3.55%. If members want any further data on that, I can get further data in terms of youth unemployment. I'm sure that's an area that you'd be interested in terms of that. And again, as the borough, we're working hard to support our schools. I'm involved in some of the interviewing in terms of skills days. And I'm sure if other people are interested, I'm sure the schools would be most welcome in trying to support, again, with mock interviews, thinking about opportunities. I've been to a few schools to talk about the role of the councillor and particularly I was particularly impressed with one school that I arrived at, and the head of year said, "Wow, you've got so many people coming to talk to you at your slot." I had about 55 young people, and I thought, "Gosh, that's fantastic! All these young people interested in politics." And when I said to them, I said, "It's brilliant. I'm coming along to." I said, "You are in the right room, aren't you? You want to come and talk about what it's like to be a local councillor." And they said, "Oh no, we thought you were here talking about law. We're interested in being lawyers." So I was a bit disappointed, but I kept, what I did was I thought, well, actually, there's a lot of similarities. We can connect the two careers together. So we ended up having a good hour slot, but I thought they all wanted to be budding politicians, but they didn't. Anyway, and then, the last area, which, again, I'm sure members are aware about, is the equality, diversity and inclusion. Cabinet approved the policy and the action plan in October 2021. We've set up a strategic steer, which is led by, it's across the political group, but it's clearly steered by all senior management within the senior officers and senior members of the political party in terms of the leader and the deputy leader, and obviously myself as chair. We've identified the actions in terms of the action plan, and the summary progressed of 77 actions at September 2022, and so you can see the ones that are completed in progress, and of course you can see all these things and ask for the action plan so you can see in detail. Headlines, Clearly, we've rolled out the equality and awareness training for all staff, and I do think that it would be really useful for members if members are interested as well. It's an online training. I introduce it alongside the leader, not the leader, chief exec. He's there. It's me and you introduce it. It's been given some really positive feedback. If members have got time, I will. I'd say it was really worth doing. So far, 42% uptake in terms of that. And you can see some of the other achievements to date. We're meeting bi-monthly as a group. And we are moving forward in terms of, the actions that we've identified in terms of that. Interestingly, we had the fire service over for our last meeting. The fire service came in terms of thinking about workforce development, and that was really, really helpful in terms of the work that the fire service had done in terms of looking at how it ensures that it's got a workforce that is truly inclusive, that all members feel equally respected and valued. And we've got some learning to do from that, and we're hoping to take some of that forward within the council. So that's me whistled through. Like I say, obviously you hadn't asked any specific questions. Is there any, I'm conscious that you've got 3 more presentations here, so.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Viv. It was really, really interesting to hear all about the different aspects of your portfolio, quite wide stretching amongst it all. Has anybody got any questions? Councillor Paling.
Thank you, Chair. Viv, we've just recently had an email from Emma McKinley about training opportunities, but I just thought, did that include disability awareness training? Because I thought that was going to be put on for all councillors, as well as making it one of the key priorities for staff to be aware of disability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the equality and diversity is a good starting point in terms of training. Clearly, we've got training around mental health, we've got training around domestic violence, disability. I think that if we're looking at the areas that we want to cover in terms of the 9 vulnerable characteristics, and I think that we need to cover them all. But I think that that's quite a lot in terms of for members. So I would start with the equalities and diversity training, and then we need to move into then. And I'm hoping that, Emma, you're saying that as part of members' induction, that's being reviewed now as we speak.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question on the HAF programme, because I saw on the slide there was 138,000 spent or something on that programme. How does that compare to previous years, and is it really enough in terms of what you would like to do aspirationally?
So the 138,000 was the allocation that Gedling Borough Council helped to process really through that time period. I think it was quite challenging, to be honest, because there was obviously a lot of providers were involved to do that. So I think we were quite pleased at that level of expense in terms of, it said on the slides, there was over 2,000 kind of attendances at different activities. There was a slightly larger allocation from that. What I would say in Gedling, we actually spent the highest allocation across all the districts during that period when districts were involved. And some of the benefits that we had is just our local connection with those providers and voluntary sector organisations as well, because we've got quite a good working relationship anyway. So, it's a challenge. Money's great, but actually the actual mechanism to spend the money can be quite challenging as well, and finding the right providers. Because the thing with the HAF scheme is around making sure your grassroots community providers are the ones really offering those opportunities, because they're the ones who really know most in need.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Martin Smith.
Yes, thank you, Viv, for that presentation. And I was just going to touch on what Councillor Boyle's talked about, Lance. Great to see so much work going on. Just to clarify, from what you're saying, that the responsibility for the delivering of this will fall to the County Council or the administration of it?
So the whole responsibility really sits with the county council. So the government issues the funding allocation to the county. I think the best way to describe it, there was an interim period where the district supported county by the passporting of funding down, and what we really helped to do is find the deliveries for that period of time. What the county council have now done is they've now used resource to recruit dedicated officers across the county. So they've got 3 community development workers to actually coordinate the HAF programme. Because I think one of the things, and it kind of related to that last point, in terms of trying to get money spent is quite challenging. So putting that officer resource in at a county level has been really helpful, I think, to add some extra coordination of it. So we've got 1 officer for across the whole of the south, which is Gedling, Broxtowe and Rushcliffe, to coordinate the programme. So as I said, kind of we're involved in the learning and the connection around that interim period, and now the county council is administrating it, but also issuing the funding direct through its community development workers now to those providers. So we're not involved in any of that delivery process anymore.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, we've spoken before about provision within the rural communities, certainly in Newstead Abbey ward, and obviously I'm very, very aware of what's going on, particularly through the regeneration officer in Newstead Village, and I'm going to actually go for lunch tomorrow. I was surprised to see that Ravenshead After School Club had received some assistance, which I wasn't aware of, and possibly if I had have been, I might have suggested it could have been directed elsewhere. But, let's keep talking about provision outside of the urban areas, and certainly will do with County Hall.
Yeah, and some of it did rely on the providers that almost had the ability to tap into the funding. So even in Ravenshead, there will be families in need that have access to that. But as I said, because of the blended provision, it actually enabled families who could afford to pay to access activities as well. But I think it's an important point around capacity amongst providers, isn't it? Because actually funding regimes are great, but also we need to support some of our providers to even be able to access that process, because it takes resource in itself, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else indicating now, so I think we'll move on from. Thanks very much, Councillor Viv McCrossan, for your presentation, and Lance as well for helping. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to Councillor Ron McCrossan, who's going to talk about his portfolio, which I believe is the environment. Are you ready, Ron?
Yeah, to press that one. You want to press the first one, yeah, but you're fiddling around with it, yeah. It's that one.
Right, good evening everybody. Thank you, Chair, for the introduction. Just to point out, I've only been in this post for, since May really, and some of the points I'm about to talk about obviously were from the previous portfolio holder, Councillor Barnes, so if you can bear that in mind when I'm talking through. It's quite a large area, quite a large portfolio, and it's divided up into 8 sections. And obviously the purpose here is to give you an insight into the work that's been carried out regarding the environment and community safety issues across the borough. So I will start. Yep. This gives you an idea of the range of areas that are involved in this portfolio, and I think possibly some of those might have expanded a little bit, but generally that gives you an insight into the 8 areas that I've been involved with. Obviously not involved with them as intensely as I might have wanted to be during the short period of time that I've been the portfolio holder, but I am trying to get to grips with it, and I might say it's a very interesting area across the board. Okay, waste and recycling. In June 2022, the new GBC waste policy, which has recycling at its core, was approved by the Cabinet. The action plan arising includes partnership working with the Joint Waste Management Partnership to establish a local campaign of promotional activity to encourage responsible recycling and to drive down residual waste. I might add, as part of my brief as the portfolio holder, I have actually been on one of the wagons for a whole day to do a round, so I got a fairly good idea in the Newstead area, Newstead Village, what the guys do, and also the women, do regarding picking up waste and some of the issues that are there, but generally they're an amazing bunch of people. In support of these waste services, establishes a local bin tag campaign to promotional activity to encourage responsible recycling. And the bin tags are in use now. These are examples of the bin tags used in the campaign to help reduce contamination and increase recycling. We are delivering the current Don't Waste Your Recycling campaign in September, October and November of this year to promote recycling and educate residents and businesses in the borough as regards to bin contamination. The bins obviously will be the tags will be rolled out later in this year. Using social media, our website and QR codes to get to the message out there in a drive to improve our recycling data so that the required targets are delivered to. Initially, there will be a limited trial in Netherfield, as I said, and Killiswick areas, which, if successful, will be rolled out across the borough. The bin tags will be placed on bins if contamination has occurred to alert the resident to the fact and to encourage them to read the QR code on their mobile phone to access information on what can be done, what can and cannot be recycled. We can then obtain data as to the programme's success by monitoring the numbers of hits on our QR codes when people seek advice. Hopefully this will help educate and bring down levels of contamination while at the same time reducing waste going into residual bins. Arrangements are again in place to offer every household pensioner one free bulky waste collection, which you saw prior to that slide, this year, and for all residents to be provided with a free bulky waste collection at Christmas via our bulky waste amnesty. These are programmed in for Christmas and the New Year. In support of this, we will also be promoting the Veolia Nottinghamshire Reduce, Reuse, Recycling Fund for not-for-profit organisations in the borough with the idea to help others thinking differently about waste. They can apply for a grant of up to £1,000 from the Reduce, Reuse, Recycling Fund available to groups, schools and charities who are committed to helping Nottinghamshire reduce and reuse and recycle. Our recently employed climate change officer started in spring with a school's engagement in May to promote reduction in the use of single-use plastics, and they also engage in other community groups in the summer. They arranged a bin lorry to visit schools for over 60 children and staff who got the opportunity to see how a bin lorry works and find out what happens to their waste and what materials can go into the recycling bin. The message given out served to reinforce the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, repair, recycle message and educate our next generation. There was a very positive feedback from the schools who welcomed further visits for future education delivery. They also helped to facilitate the Great British Clean-up, spring of this year, ending on the 10th of April, running from the 10th of April to the 22nd, encouraging schools and the community to take action to protect the environment. Schools in the borough were encouraged to allow children to take part in litter picking activities and Easter bonnet competitions using single-use plastics and other recycled materials. Litter picking equipment was loaned out so the schools could promote environmental cleanliness to the wider community. I'm sure you've all got litter pickers in your area, volunteers, as well as encouraging young school children to get involved in it. And obviously, again, they're going to be our litter pickers of the future. Types of litter collected: usual plastic bottles, crisp packets, glass bottles, but one new litter face mask. The message: taking action, taking responsibility and being proud of where they live. Further community work included meeting the Netherfield Climate Action and Burton Joyce Climate Change groups and holding events including children's activities that promoted our Green Rewards initiative to amongst other things, encourage recycling. Several local residents signed up to this initiative. The Climate Change Officer promoted Plastic Free July through a series of videos promoted on social media. The first video was filmed in Shop Zero in Nottingham, a sustainable shop that promotes ways to reduce single-use plastic when purchasing everyday items. The video shown gives tips on how you can reduce single-use plastic. Another video was filmed at the Cafe 1899 in Gedling Country Park, meeting the Meek sisters to find out why single-use plastic was such a problem and what it means to be plastic clever. To date, these videos have received a total of 1,033 views. At the Queen's Jubilee event at Arnold Hill Park, football was good, and they spoke to other football was good, and they spoke to other 40 people, and at least half of those registered for the Green Awards scheme, which has been extended for a further year. Yeah, there's a few more slides. Oh, sorry, not at the moment. I think the next one is, we might have missed a couple actually. Yeah. And there we can see the green flag. Oh, that's one too early. Where are we? It launched at the under 20. The Green Awards is an online platform designed to incentivise and encourage residents to undertake positive environmental behaviour change. They additionally met with the project officer for Men in Sheds and linked them with the Burton Joyce Climate Group, who had 2 planters made, positioned outside the co-op in Burton Joyce with peat-free compost and are planted for pollinators. I think I'm on the right. No, I haven't come to that one yet. Go one back. Is that it? Yeah, okay. Parks and open spaces. Please give me a nudge if I've missed the slide. Parks and open spaces. Green flag quality standards continue to be used and improved to enhance our borough parks and play areas. We now have 5 green flag parks in 22-23 compared to the 4 previously. Arnott Hill Park, Gedling Country Park, Burton Road Jubilee Park, Bestwood Country Park, and this year Breck Hill Recreation Ground. Funding bids have been submitted to FFC Community Fund, Severn Trent Communities Fund, the Co-op Communities Fund, Football Foundation, and the Woodland Trust, amongst others by Parks Development Team, who facilitates parks improvements. The Play Area Replacement Programme continues to reflects our ability to form park friends of groups, identify pots and deliver funding pots and deliver projects. I think it's important at this point to mention that the parks are developed for a number of reasons, obvious reasons, but also they have a community link to those people who live by, and that can't be underestimated. Particularly with the Friends group, both Viv and I were directly involved with the Breck Hill group, which kicked off probably about 4.5 years ago, and it really is something the local community can gel a local community group together. So I think that they're a really important way to generate interest. Collick Rec community consultation is complete. The funding bid submitted to the FFC communities has been successfully awarded. Funding of $99,500 has been collected to refurbish the play area, working in partnership with Collick Parish Council. This work should be completed in the winter of this year. Lamley Lane Rec play area has also been identified for capital investment. This play area is a council priority for refurbishment. A funding bid application is being prepared for FFC Communities grant funding. The Gedling Parks Friends of Group have been instrumental in working in partnership with us on this project. A tender is being sent out to obtain real-world costs to add to the funding bid, which once submitted, we will await the outcome. Refurbishment of the play area at Church Lane Recreational Ground is also underway, and we are working with a new Friends group on this park to help facilitate another FCC funding bid. On the right page. Excuse me for a second. Right. Other play area projects are in the pipeline include possible Friends of Group at Arnold Vale Rec to help refurbish the play area in another Valley Road to do the same. The Arnold Vale Rec Friends of Group only started a few months ago, and again it was just, I was invited along to the park one summer's afternoon, met with some of the parents that were there, that hadn't called me out, but were interested in developing the park. And since then, a group has got going. So it only starts very small, but very quickly, groups are formed, and they're a great source of encouragement, and obviously they can go through to the funding. At Gedling Country Park, we are awarding the tender for the installation of a Holocaust Memorial Cherry Tree Circle that will soon see planting of cherry trees around a circular path with benches and a central flame structure of coltan steel. This will be done with surrounding wildflowers between the centre sculpture and path-stroke benches. A bird hive of and a sand martin bank is also being bid for from the Severn Trent Communities Fund with match funding from GBC. If successful, it will see the construction of a bird hide to allow for watching of birds and wildlife in the park, and a sand martin bank to encourage these birds to not only visit the park but to start nesting also. As I'm sure many of you know, this present climate situation, many of our migrant birds are running in short supply in terms of their returning from their winter flights. So encouraging the sand martins is something that I'm certainly keen to see happen. The refurbishment of the King George V Park Pavilion is underway in Arnold following a pavilion structural survey with necessary work will take place to ensure the building's structural integrity and see the pavilion interior refurbished for community use. We also await the funding bid for the new sports pavilion on Lamley Lane Recreational Ground. The project was delayed following talks with the Football Foundation and the incumbent teams using the facility, and this is now forms part of the Shared Prosperity Investment Plan funding bid, which is pending sign-off from the government, hopefully with a positive result. The Digby Park Arboretum works have taken place throughout 21-22 with specific species of trees being planted to complete the Digby Park Arboretum tree trail and more general tree planting as part of the pledge to plant 500 trees in the borough annually. The new Arboretum and tree trail signage has been prepared with QR code posts that link via mobile phones to information to the tree species on our website. The Arboretum signage has been installed and the Arboretum launch will take place this November. The Green Lung initiative is also being delivered with woodland plantings at Gedling Country Park and Digby Park along the path that will eventually link the two sites along a green walkway route. The project will also see improvement to works to alleviate the flooding to properties on Neaton Close following flash flooding events to prevent the green space path from being washed away. The new drainage system will be structured to facilitate a greater water flow and prevent inundation further down the catchment area. A review of our parks and open spaces with a view to turning close-mown areas into pollinator-friendly wildflower meadows has also taken place. The first Arnavale Rec and Thackeray's Lane Rec will be planted up this winter. These areas will be the first of many that will be planted to see pollinator wildflower meadows. Much tree planting has taken place this year. Many trees planted as part of the Queen's Jubilee tree canopy planting initiative at Gedling Country Park and at the Digby Park Arboretum. In total, over 1,200 trees have been planted this year to date. The Great British Spring Clean-up, Keep Britain Tidy, took place in spring. Once again, our community litter heroes have joined us in taking action to protect the environment. Litter not only blights our environment, and makes areas look unsightly and untidy, it also affects natural habitats and wildlife. Our Gedling Big Spring Clean encourages and supports residents, businesses and volunteers and organise litter picks, activities and events to help tidy their local environment, be it a village or a town. The Big Spring Clean event and others were organised throughout the year as an ideal time to recruit one of our community litter to one of our many community litter volunteer groups. New members are always welcome and the council provides litter pickers, hoops, bibs, bags and anyone in the group wishing to take part on a litter pick. And a street cleansing team will collect the bags of litter afterwards too. We've also now used blue bags. Some of you may have seen them outside by bins when there's been any litter groups out. It's just so that we can differentiate between people who are fly tipping. So that's when you see the blue bags. Next slide. Okay. Quotations are in for 3 new cameras at Muirfield Road Rec, Killissick Rec and Burton Joyce Village at £57,000. The siting of these cameras is proving slightly problematic. The 3 cameras will require 3 columns, 2 of which are booster columns, 3 of which are on land not owned by GBC. Power supply has not yet been confirmed. Officers are still working with the installation company to confirm transmission pathways. Planning applications are shortly to be submitted. However, it is understood that the senior leadership have signed off authorisation and these installations will take place, operational issues aside, by the 31st of March next year. We also have been successful in obtaining additional funding from the Police and Crime Commissioner's Safe Streets initiative to address ASB in the Netherfield, antisocial behaviour in the Netherfield area. With partnership working with the police, county highways and other bodies, this includes putting in place extra cameras in areas that suffer from high incidence of antisocial behaviour, and plans for these are being worked up at present. Public protection and antisocial behaviour. A joint bid with the South Notts Community Safety Partnership for the Safer Streets 4 fund of £250,000 has been successful. GBC community safety officers will chair the delivery group and sit on the governance board. The funding will pay for a range of crime prevention measures, including wardens who will patrol the streets, specialist burglary reduction officers, a greater CCTV camera network, better street lighting and training for people working in town centres and at night time to help them keep women and girls safe. The aim being to reduce antisocial behaviour in areas where it is highest, specifically around the Netherfield and Colic areas. Working with partners including police, youth justice, youth services, fire rescue and others, Gedling Public Protection has developed delivery action plans to support the delivery of local area-based projects to reduce crime such as burglary and violence, etc. These have been reviewed and are now being monitored through the local partnership problem-solving group that meets every 2 weeks. The team are currently working to coordinate the delivery of a programme of intensification interventions in identified areas of the borough funded by the Safer Streets 4 fund. In terms of shop watch and pub watch schemes, recommendations 12 and 13 of the Safe Streets funding bid will see the community protection officers working with retailers to further improve the shop watch radio scheme and make better use of the CCTV cameras in our town centre areas, using the 10,000 funding bid provided in 22-23 for this work. A 40 ANPR camera in Victoria Retail Park will be brought back into use, and shop watch and pub watch recruitment measures will take place to impact directly on shoplifting and town centre antisocial behaviour. Is that right? Yep. The neighbourhood wardens team. Let me come back one, is it? Yeah, the neighbourhood wardens team remain under-resourced at present with 3 vacancies. We are looking to fill the posts at the earliest opportunity. Additional changes have been made to the process of littering from vehicles to identify and enforce against offenders. These form part of a GBC environmental enforcement policy that has been written to help and provide consistent approach to the delivery of waste management environmental enforcement duties. It will empower the Council's authorised enforcement officers to take appropriate enforcement action using advice and guidance, informal warnings, statutory notices, fixed penalty notices and formal cautions. Recent audit recommendations in this area will ensure that the policy will set out how enforcement activity will be prioritised moving into the future. The aim being to improve the numbers of litter and dog fouling fixed penalty notices served. A process map of fly tip responsible activities has also been undertaken, and in line with this, the neighbourhood wardens continue to deploy covert cameras to fly tips hotspots around Gedling to capture evidence of illegal fly tipping. However, the 3 vacant wardens posts we have at present are hampering our operations, and the number of successful prosecutions are able to, the most successful prosecutions we are able to enforce or bring to court. Meeting with the group that works on this, it's clear they're working hard. It's quite difficult when I ask the question of how do you actually track down if you find a pile of rubbish that's been dumped illegally, they are quite detailed in looking through that rubbish to track down whether or not there's any evidence that can link the rubbish to whoever put the rubbish there. So they work really hard at that. Food, health and safety. This year has seen the successful delivery of a new line of food business registration scheme implemented to partnership with Food Standards Agency, who along with the trading standards will now automatically receive a copy of the new food business registration in the borough. Nottinghamshire districts and County Council and County Council agreed to promote the Healthy Options Takeaway Scheme in 22-23 to promote the availability of healthy food from takeaways. Adoption of draft skin piercing bylaws was also approved in the July full council meeting following public consultation. Let me do licensing, is that one? Yep. Licensing. Consultation on the new national taxing standards with trade has taken place, but this work will continue through 22-23. Delays were encountered as a separate consultation needed to be carried out at the use of the taxi top signs, and the fallout from the consultation has placed a considerable burden on the licensing and legal services within the council. Once complete, the new taxi standards will be implemented. Consultation with the trade took place in early 22 on the gambling policy. Some of the bodies and organisations consulted were the Association of British Bookmakers, the Bingo Association, the British Beer and Pub Association, Elected Councillor Borough Council, Gamblers Anonymous, the Gambling Commission, Game Care, HM Revenue and Customs Licensing Solicitors. The authority has a gambling policy in place which covers the period 22 to 25. Our licensing officers inspect gambling premises and facilities for compliance with the Act and any licence conditions through the application of a risk-based inspection programme. It also investigates any evidence-based complaints that receives inspections and enforcement are ongoing. Yep. Carbon management. In spring 22, the Council approved the consulted upon carbon management strategy and action plan. The strategy and action plan builds on the Council's work today on low carbon interventions and improvements to the local environment. It sets out how the Council will reduce its current carbon footprint across the borough, taking into account the fleet vehicle emissions, the energy used to power the heat offices, leisure centres and other buildings, and encouraging sustainable travel for staff. Alongside the ambition to reduce its own carbon footprint, the Council will also be playing a key role in working with partners to lead the borough to reach the net zero emission set for 2030. Over the summer months, the head of the Environment Climate Change Office has been meeting with heads of service to agree the order of priority of action, which actions will be embedded into the service plan delivery cycle in order to appear in next year's departmental service plans 23-24. The Council has successfully implemented its first local authority delivery green homes refit scheme in partnership with Midlands Net Zero Hub, Nottingham Energy Partnership and E.ON Energy Services Limited. The area-based scheme targeted home energy efficiency improvements to homes with an Energy Performance Certificate rating D to G and household income of less than 30,000 as per the funding eligibility criteria set out by the government. The scheme was targeted in the Netherfield ward, which has the highest proportion of eligible households and a higher volume of solid wall properties, which were a target to refit measure for the scheme. In total, measures installed to 51 measures were installed in homes as follows: 18 owner-occupier receiving solid wall insulation, 20 owner-occupiers receiving solar panels, and 13 social rented tenants receiving solar panels. Despite promoting the scheme across tenure, no private landlord supported the tenants to benefit from the scheme. It is believed that one in three landlord contribution to the maximum of 5,000 was prohibitive to landlord participation. In total, 565,000 was spent on measures in the ward. The Council is now commencing its next phase of local authority delivery, a retrofit, working in Netherfield and Newstead Village using its funding allocation from Midlands Net Zero Hub of 900,000. A proportion of this fund is directed at homes that are not connected to the gas network for heating fuel. In order to achieve the Council's target, cultural and behavioural change within the Council is integral to the success going forward. A number of proposals to facilitate this change have been taken to senior leadership team and are currently being progressed. The proposals including the following: 1. Changes to Gedling employee management leader standards to include the following: we will behave in a way that protects the environment, enhances the environment for present and future generations. This change requires consultation through unions and would ultimately be approved by the head of paid service. This change to behavioural standards demonstrates the commitment the organisation and its staff intend to make to enhance the environment. 2. The inclusion of a specific section in performance development review forms to staff to suggest initiatives to support the Council's targets in respect of the climate change. PDRs are conducted annually for all employees, and inclusion of this section will enable staff initiatives to be identified and progressed where appropriate. 3. The provision of carbon literacy training to members. Senior team leaders teams, heads of service and managers will be delivered in September 2022. Further training will be available to members for members. Corporate online training will be delivered to be developed for all staff and included as part of the induction process for new starters. 4. The creation of a corporate environmental group chaired by the head of service responsible for the environment to assist delivery of the Council's targets in respect to the climate has also taken place. And finally, in addition to the measures listed above, the Climate Change Officer has worked with the senior leadership team and heads of service to develop an environmental policy statement. This statement is intended to demonstrate how the Council's commitment to fulfil its ambitions in relation to zero carbon emissions and delivery of the carbon management strategy. The document also sets out how the Council will embed a culture within the organisation that sets climate change as a priority. The document has been prepared in consultation with directors and heads of service and demonstrates how the organisation will commit to tackle climate change through the provision of services and functions. Right. In closing, I would like to thank officers in all these service areas for the help and support they have given me, and also obviously Peter, the previous councillor, Peter Barnes, over the last 12 months, not least in providing the information required to me to enable this presentation. I would also like to pay tribute to all the staff employed in the area for my portfolio for their hard work and commitment under increasing difficult circumstances. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Ron. And
Sorry, Chair. I've got 3 questions that have already been presented to me. Do you want me to go through those first or take questions from the floor?
we'll take the ones from the floor and then see if there are any. They might be the same questions, maybe.
Okay,
Councillor Lawrence, you go first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ron, for that lengthy presentation. Can I suggest that in future presentations are sent to members so that we can digest them a lot better? I've made a few notes, but it was such a lengthy presentation. It's difficult to take it all in, and it would save your time, and I think it would save our time as well. I've got an observation, and there are some questions. Collick Rectory Recreation Ground Children's Playground. I was disappointed as the local member to not be invited to that photo shoot that took place. That's the observation. Some time ago, I took part in an online consultation with regard to the United Kingdom Shared Prosperity Fund. I was the only councillor there were officers, and I put forward some suggestions, and I think you mentioned that there's been a bid which is successful. Is that right?
Fill in on that one, Mel?
We're still awaiting on the SPF funding bid, so it's not successful at this moment in time, but the government are due to announce it in the autumn statement, hopefully. Right.
Well, the suggestions I put forward were to do with the Collick Rectory Recreation Ground. For some years, the Collick Rectory Recreation Ground car park has been surfaced with an aggregate that in the summer blows over people's washing, and in the winter, with the rain, runs off into the drains. And I have, in fact, mentioned that before. So I hope that a bid went in for a proper surfacing of the car park. Second point is to do with the toilet facilities on there. I did see that, well, I know that there is one at Gedling Country Park, and I saw that another park got toilet facilities. There are toilet facilities and changing accommodation on the Rectory Park, but as far as I know, it's only available during when the footballers use it. And I have brought this up years before. I do understand the costs involved, but it does seem to me extremely environmentally unfriendly for people to have to urinate and defecate if they're caught short. So I don't know whether that actually went forward, because after the consultation, I received nothing on it. You also mentioned safer streets. I came out of my house one day to find officers walking around the area of Collick, and I was told there would be an occasion for members to get involved, but again, I've heard nothing on that. I sometimes feel that as a local member, I am excluded from a lot of consultations and things that are going on. But obviously, as I'm retiring next May, that won't last very long. But I just hope for other members that they're given the chance to have some input into these things that go on.
Who wants to speak? Ron, are you going to
answer?
Yeah.
Obviously, some of those issues, particularly the toilet issue, I do sympathise significantly in that one. We have had a number of, to give an example, in Bestwood Country Park, the park was being closed slightly earlier than it should have been really, but we've now alleviated that problem because the same issues you identified with early closure of toilets was causing a significant problem. So I think on an individual by individual basis, we will look at the toilets and because basically they need to be brought into the same ring of, if you like, locking the doors as every other toilet in the area. So particularly in the summer months, when it's light till 9, 10 o'clock at night, we need to devise a system for that. But I'm sure I'll be in consultation with Mel.
Well, thank you for that, Ron. Just need to say that it isn't open apart from match days, as far as I understand.
Right. And where's the nearest other toilet then?
Probably Collick Country Park in the city.
Oh, okay.
In for a penny.
Oh, in for a penny. That's a long way away.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question now. Michael Boyle.
I haven't my hand up before.
Do you want to go first then?
Yeah, I'll do.
Oh, go on then.
Thank you. Won't be as long a question as the last one. It's about the protocol for contaminated bins, which will be a major issue because once you start penalising the door people, it'll be... So the protocol I see is there's an officer goes ahead of the crew and gradually checks each bin. So they find a contaminated bin, they put a marker on the bin, they take a photograph of the top of the bin, close it, the crew comes back. Now what then happens, does the crew empty the bin? No, because that'll contaminate the lorry.
No, the crew will actually leave the bin and the person will be told to remove the contaminant from the bin and then they'll return to empty.
So the person, you somehow communicate with the person, however, ask them to take the articles out of the bin, they do, and then the lorry comes special next day or a couple of days later and empties that bin.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. So what happens if it happens to the same person a couple of weeks' time or a month's time? Is there records kept, and what happens if a person's doing it continually all the time?
Yeah,
what do we actually do then?
Records are kept, so they'll be given that first warning with the tag, and then beyond that they get a verbal warning again, so we'll have an officer go around the premises and warn them to that. Then they'll get a written warning, so we're talking 3 warnings already have been delivered, and then we would consider enforcement beyond that point, but it isn't guaranteed. We'll deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
So the enforcement beyond that, because you can't stop, you've got to really, if you start something, you've got to have the political courage, really, to a certain extent, to see it to the end. So if the person continually does it, do we take away the bin?
Yes, ultimately the policy states that would be the ultimate recourse.
Household has it been every 2 weeks with the black bin, but doesn't have the facility of the recycling bin. And how long would that happen for? We'd say that 3 months, would we?
It's never happened yet, to be honest,
because
usually by the warning,
if this goes through, it'll be a
comply.
major. I tell you, it'll be a major issue. This will be. So we better get it right before we start. So.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
so,
I know. But
and we're operating under the policy.
We will have
currently.
to, if we are one of the worst contaminated councils in the area, we really have to do something about it. So we're stepping in the right direction. But until we actually start, we've got to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, I think obviously it's a new initiative and we're going to have to go through the process to see what the pros and cons are of it. But you're right, we need to follow something through quite. It needs to be followed through. No, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we move on? We've got a few other questions. So next I've got Councillor Boyle, Councillor Sam Smith and Councillor Scroggy. Councillor Michael Boyle.
Thanks very much, Chair. I've got two points, or 2 questions, really. One is a fairly general one. First of all, thanks very much for your presentation. Found it very interesting, despite the length. And,
we will try and condense it.
But it was good. No, it was good, and I thought it was good. The general question really is this, how do you sort of work in those kind of wide-ranging responsibilities? Because I noticed there are some responsibilities that were under other portfolio holders previously, and how does it all fit together? So that's the general question. The specific question is following on from Councillor Feeney's question on bin tags. The bin tags themselves look quite friendly and modern and so on, and they've got a QR code, and You know, if I got one of those, I would know what to do. I'd point my phone at it and I would get the information. Now, I can do that. There's an awful lot of other people that perhaps don't have that facility and they don't have the knowledge of how to use it if they do. What do we do in those circumstances where we're looking at people who either can't or won't use that kind of technology? What alternatives are there in terms of... Because I see the thing, it's sort of like a nudge theory, isn't it? You're trying to encourage good behaviour by sort of nudging people in the right kind of direction, which is obviously more cost effective than going straight for enforcement and court orders and taking away bins and all the rest of it, you know.
No, I think it's a very fair point. What I would say is, I don't think there's any easy answer to that one, but in terms of the groups, so for example, that I gave earlier, the example of me being on the wagon with one of the fleet wagons for the day, was that what you see is the skills that we probably don't acknowledge really, that the workforce have. So not only have you got the driver, who is a key person in terms of how they do the round, but also the people that are on the round know the round inside out, and they know the people that need extra help. So, for example, if you've got an elderly person who maybe have some slight disability, they know that she or he is not going to be able to get their bin to there, so they actually follow that through. So I think they get to know the round. I think Mel would agree with that in terms of the work they do. And I wouldn't say we underestimate them, but we maybe don't acknowledge what really finely tuned skills they do have on their round. So it doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I think we've got to go through the process of the tags and we will identify the key issues. I'm sure,
Okay.
Mike, you probably agree on that one.
you.
Yeah. Yes, education, absolutely, education.
I'm going to move on to Sam Smith. Any question?
Thank you, Chair. And Ron, thank you for that presentation. I'm in Trent Valley. I'm lucky enough to represent an area that is lovely and leafy and loads of the roads are tree lined. I say lucky until the autumn because then the leaves fall off and cover the drainage tops and then add to the risk of flooding, which we've seen sadly in Trent Valley over the past few weeks. Now, I report the leaves between the rainfall, and there was rainfall last week. I reported it on the Gedling website instead of emailing officers, and the response I got was from customer services. It says, during the winter months, Gedling Borough Council have a schedule which concentrates on cleaning areas affected by falling leaves. Can I see that schedule? Because I've been asking for it since 2019 and I've never received it. I sat on the flooding working group, we asked for it, we've never received it. So can that be shared with councillors, please? And when we do in between rainfalls report it, what goes on to divert teams away from areas that aren't flooding into areas that do to assist with the clear up? And I know the county council are responsible for under the drains. I have had them all cleared out in June last year. So this is a particular question about the tops of drains being cleared by this council. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem with the leaf round schedule. It's basically the more treed areas that we prioritise. So it won't be a street-by-street list. It will just be Woodthorpe, Burton Joyce, Ravenshead, because they've got a higher percentage of trees than, say, Daybrook, Killissick, for instance. In terms of street sweeping, we've got 2 Johnson sweepers, big sweepers that work north of the borough and south of the borough. They will do the gully sweeping, so they're the ones that sweep the leaves from the top of the gullies. But obviously if the gullies do get blocked up, as you alluded to, the county council is the one that has the equipment to clean the gullies. So they will send the gully suckers out, so to speak, and they will suck all the blockage out and then get the drains free running again. So that's how that works.
Sorry, Councillor Scroggy.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got 2 questions for you, Ron. The first one is, you mentioned in your presentation, if successful in Netherfield, the bin tag scheme will be rolled out across the borough. How will you know if they're successful? Is there something that you're going to be measuring it on? I'd probably like to know that. And the other one is, you mentioned parks in your presentation as well. And you mentioned specifically Valley Road playing fields. Now, we're having issues at the minute with, well, the group's having issues rather. They have been allocated the funding, but the funding provider are hesitant to release it because of the nature of the lease of the land. Now, Mel knows about it and Jane Richardson knows about it. What I'd like to know is, would you come out and visit the site and have a look at the site with myself and fellow councillors and meet the Friends of group and they can explain about the funding. And I'm pretty sure Melvin will give you a breakdown because I think you're fully aware of the issue at the minute. And that's it.
Just to confirm, yeah, I would enjoy coming out to have a look, because part of obviously the portfolio's brief is to actually see not just your area but other areas. And before Meredith goes, and maybe I'll come out and Meredith can give me a tour of his area so I can actually see that. And also I think Councillor Smith has put a question about, and I'll probably answer that now actually, about parish councils and how we get involved to help them with their parks and open spaces. I would most definitely like to come out and see, probably with yourself, to have a wander around to parish council areas, green areas and green spaces and parks that you've got.
Thank you, that'd be much appreciated, Ron.
Okay.
If I could just answer on the bin tags, it'll basically be monitored by the QR codes, so we can actually pick up on the number of people that have actually read the data. So we'll know whether they've accessed it or not. And if it's unsuccessful, then it'll be withdrawn and we'll go back to the traditional letter sending method, which is what we've done. But it's something new that we're trying to see how effective it will be.
Okay, I'm just going to have one brief round of people now. I'm going to have Councillor Hope, Councillor Paling and Councillor Martin Smith.
Oh, thank you, Chair. This is a bit of an old chestnut, but you've just alluded to it in answering the last question. There is a great inequality in that every house in the borough pays its precept, and it comes to Gedling Borough, or a lot of it does, and you spend it. And I'm very impressed by the amount of work which is going on in the parks in the Gedling Borough. Significantly, though, the people in Calverton, which I represent, do feel that they're being very badly shortchanged. We pay our precept, and we do get our bins emptied and all the rest of it. But when it comes to parks, we get nothing at all. Our community has to pay extra because all of the maintenance of our parks, all of the play equipment in our parks, everything that happens in our recreation areas is actually funded by the parish council. And to do that, the parish council has another precept on the people of Calverton. Really, some thought should be given to this, and you just alluded to it by saying you want to work with parish councils and see what Gedling Borough can do. I think that's very important because, there's no doubt in my mind that there's a real inequality here. Something for you. It needs looking at. And it's been going on. At one time, when I first came on the Borough Council, there was lip service paid to it. I believe Gedling Borough gave Calverton something like 20,000 a year in recognition of the fact that Gedling Borough had no responsibility for anything in our park. We paid for everything. The first year I was on, that was reduced by 50%. The second year, that was reduced by 50%. Third year I was on, it disappeared altogether. And we've not seen a penny piece since. So clearly there is some history here. Clearly there's something that needs doing. And I really think since you're new in the job, you ought to put your thinking cap on and see if you can come up with a solution. Thank you.
Just to confirm, I will be coming out to see Calverton as well. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Paling, brief, please.
Leaves, because one of the things I've noticed is that it's parked cars that cause more of a problem because they park over the drains and the drains can't be cleared. Do we have any system, Mel, of notifying an area that you're planning to do the sweep so that you can ask people not to park over drains?
Initially, no, not on the first cleanse. So we would go down with the Johnson sweeper and try and clear the areas. But if we come, and it's down to the drivers to let the supervisors know, if we come across a street that's particularly not getting cleansed, Rob, because of the volume of cars being parked in it, then we will leaflet and we'll put road cones out to prevent parking. Notwithstanding, we still get some residents ignoring it and parking in the street anyway. But we have used that on several occasions if certain streets have needed that deep clean because it's just not getting done because of the volume of cars parked.
Okay, final question, Martin Smith.
Thank you, Chair. And on this rare occasion, I do actually agree with Councillor Hope. But moving on, Councillor Creamer and I met at County Hall last week as part of the local access forum, which looks at rights of ways for walkers, horse riders, off-roaders, cyclists. And people at the meeting were very, very complimentary about Gedling Country Park. But just a request from the horse riding fraternity, and whether it's possible to provide designated horse riding areas at Gedling Country Park. Studying the Ordnance Survey map, I see that there's a bridle path that comes all the way through from Bulcote through Burton Joyce Lamley and stops just virtually at the end of Spring Lane and Lamley Lane. I'm not expecting an answer now, but it's just something to consider, and whether the walkers and cyclists can be segregated, I don't know, but it's just, I'm passing on the message that Councillor Creamer and I were asked about.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've already got that in our list of things to do, and we're trying to arrange a meeting with the group.
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Ron, for your presentation and answering the questions there. That's great. Thank you very much.
I just hope, there were a couple, Councillor Smith's question, I think I've answered that. I'll come out and see, and we can go from there.
Okay, that's great. So now we're going to move on to item 5, which is a part of our partnership review that we as a committee decided to do to have some information from some of our partners we work with. So first of all, we've got Jigsaw Homes who come to talk to us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So my name's Ivan Wright. I'm the Assistant Director for Neighbourhoods at Jigsaw Homes Group. I'm going to talk to you briefly, hopefully, about what we do, where our stock is situated, how we handle our customer contacts and our specialist teams, our lettings approach, our approach to the cost of living crisis, which was covered already, our asset management strategy, and our engagement with residents. That does sound like a lot, but I will be brief. Let me just work out this. Thank you. So, what do we do? So, we're one of the largest social housing landlords who renovate and manage low-cost housing for rent and sale. The core of our business is centred on the management of 35,000 homes, principally social housing for rent. However, we have a healthy new build programme looking to deliver 4,000 homes over a 5-year period. We work to help regenerate neighbourhoods and increase life opportunities for disadvantaged individuals and communities throughout our neighbourhood engagement work. And we also provide a range of charitable and supported housing services to help people live independently and to successfully maintain their tenancies. As far as our footprint in the Midlands, as you know, we're a registered social landlord, formed in 2009 as part of the stock transfer from the council. The stock is based within the boundaries of Gedling Borough, and we have a stock of just over 3,000 properties. Jigsaw Homes Midlands has a high proportion of sheltered schemes, which accounts for 26% of our stock, which is the red part of that pie chart. And in the 5 years following transfer, around £42 million has been invested to exceed the government's decent homes targets. The provision of general needs housing makes up 72%, with a relatively even split between flats and houses of 1,500 and 1,600 respectively. The largest proportion of our flats are one-beds, and our houses are in the main 3-bedroom properties, with over 200 two-beds though. And you won't be able to see this very well on here, but this is a map showing our stock. So obviously our stock is in the red, showing the physical spread across the borough. But to the south, the cluster is in and around Netherfield, and to the north of that, Daybrook and Arnold, with another heavy cluster of properties up in Calverton, some new build inputs there on Burton Joyce, and a little bit further in the middle there. So, as far as our customer contact strategy goes, we have two main contact centres that have retained their what's called an ACC Global Accreditation for their customer service, and that's been held for 11 years now. All inquiries are triaged with the aim of being to deal with the inquiry at first point of contact. As such, we have a complex scripting in place developed with internal departments to ensure that we're trying to resolve those inquiries at first point of contact. If the contact teams are unable to resolve those issues, though, they'll be passed on to our specialist teams who are logged to task, and they have a target of returning that contact within 2 working days, unless it's an emergency. We have a number of specialist teams throughout the organisation, such as repairs and maintenance, who log and respond to all routine repairs and planned maintenance tasks. We have our lettings and tenancy management teams who handle the allocation, lettings, and then the day-to-day management of all tenancies. Rent and financial support who collect the rents, but crucially assist individuals in maximising their income through advice on the correct entitlement to benefits. Our antisocial behaviour and safeguarding team who deal with all aspects of ASB and crime reported in our neighbourhoods, taking a case from simple warnings through legal action for injunctions and ultimately possession applications. We work alongside partners to ensure that both the victims and those accused of disturbance get the support needed. We also have a dedicated complaints team who also deal with our councillor and MP inquiries. So there is, of course, a housing crisis. So it's crucial that homes are allocated appropriately and based on the needs of individuals and families. We do this via Gedling Home Search, which is a choice-based letting scheme in the local authority housing register. Housing need is assessed at point of registration with a key objective to provide applicants with honest and accurate prospects at first point of contact, as waiting times can be very long. Affordability is even more important now than it ever has been. So we take every applicant through an affordability assessment to assess their income and outgoings, ensuring that there is flexibility and that the burden is not too great. We may refuse to let, however, based on existing debt to the organisation or serious ASB or crime. But to date, we've let 259 properties, with 330 last year. Cost of living, obviously, as we all know, inflation is rising and everything is getting more expensive. And our residents are feeling the pinch more than ever. When our residents are struggling, our money advice team are there to help, accepting referrals from both internal and external colleagues to assist those requiring a financial health check to help maximise their income and manage some of the worries around getting into debt with their rent. Jigsaw also has an internal hardship fund available to help residents in severe financial difficulty. Referrals for that usually come from our money advice team and lettings officers. They can be used to help with things like white goods, furniture, carpets and floor coverings for both new and existing tenants. Grants are up to £750 per individual, but allocated based on need. So in Gedling, we've approved 10 applications during this financial year so far and spent over £5,000. Energy costs, as we all know, are rising, and as such, advice around minimising the costs are provided at sign-up and when people need it, with a wealth of information online, including links to individual providers who can assist. We have our own Jigsaw Employment and Training Club, which is open to all those looking for work and covers CV writing, interview techniques, one-to-one sessions, training opportunities, internet access and job searching. We also hold a database of support options such as food banks and community shops for onward referral for our teams. And we're trialling a See It, Gift It. Our voids teams and our lettings officers are working at a pilot project to gift furniture direct from our void properties to new customers that need it. To our group asset management, we launched a jigsaw conversation to consult with on our future direction in 2020. The aim of this work was to align our plans with the priorities of our tenants, employees and board members, and to better understand the issues our key stakeholders felt we could do more to tackle. The themes identified building safety, making our homes safer places to live in, our carbon footprint, and improving our existing homes and green spaces, and our tenancy offer, looking at the types of properties we offer, improving our estates, and offering more support for the mental well-being of our residents. So as far as building safety goes, this remains of a paramount concern for the group. The priority reflects the debate and national soul-searching which followed the tragic 2017 Grenfell Tower fire, culminating in 2020 Housing White Paper, Fire Safety Act and Draft Building Safety Bill. We've led to the key asset management strategy projects to undertake a thorough external wall system review and complete a fire doors programme, both of which are well underway. In relation to reducing our carbon footprint, in this context, we've fundamentally revised our existing sustainability strategy in early 2021 to set out a long-term and stretching work programme to improve our impact on the environment. The aims set out in the sustainability strategy are to reduce our carbon emissions by reducing energy demands of our homes and our buildings, introduce air source heat pumps, which we've done in Gedling already, increase and improve access to well-maintained green spaces for our customers, and reduce the impact of flooding on customers and their homes. Our tenancy officer is one of the most important areas for us as an organisation. Key elements of our asset management strategy include important medium-term projects to undertake an estate improvement programme and bedsit programme to address these weaknesses. As an example of the past few years, we've been refurbishing our independent living schemes to make them more desirable and attractive to a larger client group. Our group asset management strategy sets out how we will maintain our homes in both a reactive and planned and preventative approach. So tenants are able to report repairs to us through various means, and we respond to these requests on a priority basis with our directly employed workforce based in the borough. We undertake planned component replacements such as kitchens, bathrooms, heating systems and roofs, and cyclical external decoration in line with decent home standards during both active tenancies and when a home becomes available to let. The neighbour engagement team has continued to progress the neighbourhood plans through the last quarter. The plans identify low performance, high priority areas through the analysis of internal and external data. We use information gathered from external themes such as employment and health, and internal reports such as rent arrears and demand. Every quarter the information is updated, which highlights new priorities and new reasoning for poor performance, and we use this data to decide which projects could be used to tackle them. We focus on the themes of employment, skills and training, and financial well-being, although still supporting initiatives looking at environment and demand and health and well-being. Employment and skills work through our Jigsaw employment team has continued with 2 weekly work clubs in Netherfield and Arnold and a fortnightly session in Carlton. In quarter 1, we assisted 16 people with job applications, reviewing their CVs, preparing for interviews and sending them online training courses, putting us on track to bring this support to 64 residents annually. We've also engaged with Netherfield Forum to provide free meals to residents on a Friday and to give energy advice out to residents through our sign-up packs, giving hints and tips on how to save money on energy bills. The team has continued to engage with residents and impact on well-being through social activities, singing, chair-based exercise activities. A new weekly arts and craft session began in June at Carlton Methodist Church, run by Jigsaw and church volunteers. Our memory cafe in Netherfield for those with dementia and those caring for people with dementia is still proving popular, with an average of 15 people attending each time. And the group enjoyed their first minibus outing to the Tuesday market in nearby Melton Mowbray. The environmental work facilitated by the engagement team includes educating residents on recycling, attempting to reduce fly tipping, and the creation of community gardens and improvements. The team is working through this list and have completed planting, barrier and fencing requests to reduce antisocial behaviour. We have again secured funding through EEM framework totalling £6,800, which is likely to be directed towards sustainable projects in Newstead Village. EEM are a not-for-profit organisation offering efficiency savings for the public sector and all public sector bodies. We also have our Jigsaw Foundation, which for Gedling is a fund of £45,000, but a fund of £500,000 across the group. This is given every financial year to distribute as grants to residents groups, local organisations and charities to fund projects that will benefit our residents. This financial year we've allocated £27,000 with £18,000 left remaining to pledge. Some of the causes this has helped are Carlton Hub. Carlton Community Hub provides one-stop community support centred around a free and very friendly drop-in cafe. There's a food bank to help people out of crisis, alongside advice, job club and wellbeing support to enable long-term individual and community transformation. This hub is run by and for local people, with activities to support everyone, ranging from a parent and toddler group to a knit and natter group for older people. Jigsaw tenants will be welcomed and encouraged to help develop more activities to suit local need and interest. And the hub is developing creative partnerships with local experts to provide the best possible support for the neighbourhood. Jigsaw Rewards is our online tenant engagement programme, giving customers the ability to give their feedback on a great range of topics, in which they can receive money off their rents and other rewards. We have 182 active members in Gedling for that. I'll go back one. So new development, some familiar faces on this slide there. The images there are from Teal Close and Stockinger House, which we opened quite recently. We're in contract currently for 275 new homes to be delivered between 2021 and 2028. So far in 2022, we've taken handover of 46 new homes. We're working in Arnold, Gedling, Nottingham, Newark, Sherwood, Calverton and Mansfield. Some of those funds are, I won't cover them all because there's quite a lot. But Rolleston Drive in Arnold, that's the first of our 131 off-site manufactured affordable homes, or modular builds, you might have heard them referred to as. We have Thornsby Street in Mansfield, in contract for 8 apartments. A handover is due for that in January 23. We also have a number of Section 106 acquisitions. Teal Close, Phase 2 in Nottingham. Flats Lane in Calverton, in contract with handovers from January 23. Greater Fernwood, Newark and Sherwood. The exchange of contracts with Barrett's took place in June 2020 for 77 units to be delivered in 8 phases between March 26 and 29. Thorsby Colliery, Edwinstowe, in contract for 16 rent and 6 shared ownership homes with handovers from June 23rd onwards. And Burton Road in Gedling, in contract for 17 rent and 7 shared ownership homes with handovers expected in May of next year. And the last slide is just to draw your attention really for the best port of contact really, which is our dedicated email address of MP Council Inquiries. So that's backed up by a team that purely deal with MPs and councillors as well as the complaints team. So any inquiries really, because there's so many different departments within the organisation, would be best placed via them who can collate that kind of response for you. Well, that is me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, here we go with the questions. Councillor Palin and Councillor Scroggy, I can see you.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll take you two first.
I can't remember anymore if residents in the social housing rather than the wider affordable housing become eligible for right to buy after, is it 5 years?
Yeah, so it used to be right to buy.
Yes.
So when stock transfers occurred, they retained their rights to the privilege of right to buy. However, if you've bought a property since then, if you've rented a property since then, you're on the, I suppose it's called right to acquire. It's very similar,
Right.
easily confused. But the benefits of right to acquire are in most areas a maximum of £9,000 as a discount, whereas with right to buy, it could be as much as 84,000. So it's quite a significant difference.
I know it was.
Yeah.
I just wondered, do you lose many properties
Yes.
to that? And are your new properties that you're acquiring able to replace the social housing?
Yes, we are, as Jigsaw Homes, we have quite a large development portfolio and we do a lot of development in comparison to other providers. But it is a risk to the sector that these houses are being lost through right to buy and right to acquire. So we do have to build However, it does refresh the stock. So yes, I would say that our build programme is replacing the ones that we're losing through right to buy and right to acquire.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Scroggy next.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions and a statement. I've listened and, you know, you're doing a lot of great work, but obviously, sadly, you've came to overview and scrutiny. So what I'm going to focus on is where I think you might be letting people down. But I'll start with the question of, a rough calculation, it looks like you said 35,000 portfolio stock.
Yeah.
It looks like, a quick calculation, that only 9% of that stock is based in Gedling.
3,000 stock
3,200.
in Gedling, that's correct.
So it's roughly just over 9%. By the end of 2024, could you tell me how many houses or portfolio you expect to hold within Gedling Borough? That's the... I know you've mentioned some
quick
there.
maths, yeah. I could get back to you if I tell you exactly.
You can email if you like.
If you could pass me through, I'll get back to you. Yeah.
And just a quick statement, obviously, you mentioned repairs and, you know, you're proactive on repairs. The question is, how long is it a turnaround for an empty property to be re-let? And this is the statement part. Do you think it's right that Jigsaw Homes advises a husband and wife who have 5 children in the dead of winter that they'll need to wait 10 days to have the boiler repaired? Or do you think it's correct that a mother with 2 young children who's got damp and mould in the property are told that they must open their windows in the dead of winter, and one of those children happened to be 6 months old? That's some of the advice that's been given to obviously residents in my council ward, Councillor Creamer and Councillor Feeney's ward, and I'm probably sure other councillors can relate. I think that's probably the wrong advice to be given.
I can give you answers to both of those. So the first one absolutely is wrong advice. 10 days for a boiler repair shouldn't happen. If someone hasn't got heating and hot water, then that's done in an emergency usually. So I'd be very interested to know under what circumstances that advice was given out, which I can follow up after this. As far as a mother with 2 young children and damp and mould, one of the overwhelming causes of damp and mould is lack of ventilation. So although it's winter, we'd still encourage people to ventilate because that is the main source. So we breathe out moisture, showers, hot water, moisture fills the house, it's got to escape. So they may well have said, open some windows. However, if it's a fundamental issue with damp and mould, then that should be being addressed and it should be looked into and assessed as that. However, sometimes it isn't always a substantial issue with damp and mould. It can be lifestyle choice, but it depends on the individual prospect. But yes, we may well give the advice to ventilate even in winter, just to get rid of some of that moisture. Yeah, if it's ongoing, then it should be being properly assessed, yeah.
Okay, I've already seen Councillor Ellis, Councillor Creamer, Councillor Boyle.
Yes, thank you. I represent Bestwood St Albans, part of which is Bestwood Village. And I did spot on that map that we saw on the screen, there were 1 or 2 encouraging red blobs in Bestwood Village. So my question is, and again, this might be something you may not be able to answer here and now, but whether Jigsaw Homes